Hey, 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 beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Sweet Millionaire Formula, the podcast where we mix money goals with Hollywood drama and drop gems like it's hot. I'm your host, Money Mona, budget babe by day, and I'm here to help you secure the bag without losing your mind or your edges. Period. Let's talk money, mess, and millionaire moves. Here's what we got on the agenda today: blogging as a career opportunity, building your own broadcasting channel, and the echo of long-term streams of income from contents and creating a community. So grab that drink, sis, and your pen because we're about to get into it. One, stack your paper. So I want to first of all acknowledge that not many people have talked about the staying power of being consistent. And I feel like one of the most important things that you can do when you're starting something is be consistent until it becomes automatic. I feel like growing up in Cleveland, watching LeBron and seeing him, 20 years later and seeing that his children are now a representation of his legacy is just something that his consistency and his hard work paid off, and it's paying off. And I feel like one thing that stood out to me was the fact of like being a blogger or a vlogger and how those can relate into career opportunities. And one thing that stood out to me was the fact that when you blog and you have your website set up where you're having an ad revenue coming into your page, that is how you monetize. Even though it may not be a lot, I feel like if you get enough clicks to your website, then that'll start to really generate. It's the 10,000 clicks that you get, and that'll start to really generate the income that you're looking for. And when it comes to blogging, I feel like blogging is one of those. How can I describe it? Blogging is like one of those hidden talents that you have to like have, and I feel like all of the opportunities that come from blogging and that come the responsibility that comes with blogging is consistency. And I feel like you should niche down to what blog topics appear to you in your crowd and how it can really, I don't know, elevate your brand. So one of the things that blogging as a career opportunity looks like is affiliate marketing, which you write content recommending products or services for people to use, and then they go and shop those services like on Amazon Associates, AWin, or Share a Sale. Or you can also have the ad revenue, which you get Google when you use the SMO for Google AdSense. You generate traffic from that ad revenue. And then you have digital products. You sell ebooks, templates, or courses, sponsorships and partnerships. Brands pay you to blog or feature their products. And then you get membership blogs where people use Patreon to offer premium posts, questions, or behind the scenes content. So I feel like if you choose just one theme and you just create pretty much a framework around it, with paying for the ads, bringing the revenue to your page, and then selling the digital courses, the membership, and the ebooks on the site, and having people something to stick around for, not just having a empty list and pointless site, but having an actual, a business on the program worth monetizing. Even if it's monetizing blogging, still have a business in that niche, right? So that's super important that when you stack your paper that you consider the PIRs, which is your passive income ratio, you consider it to be not just a second income, but a way of you to be able to kind of like voice who you are. I feel like a big part of who we're becoming as adults, I feel like there's no rush to an end or there's no rush to become, because the journey is a lifelong journey. And when you're following and chasing or living in the purpose of your life, or learning until you get to the purpose, or you're in a place that's fulfilling to you, because everything doesn't have to be like purpose, but at the same time you want to position your mindset to know that in the end consistency is important, but building a brand and a framework for a brand that is generating ad revenue from Google is a long-term source of income. No matter if it does take a little bit of time for it to build up with the membership, as long as you are generating that ad revenue and then you have something to land them with, um, once they come on the site. You are generating you a passive income ratio, and I think that's super smart for any brand, influencer, freelance writer, educator, coach. Pick a lane and begin to blog about it, because in the long term, you're generating income for yourself that you probably didn't even realize was possible before. But I love this podcast because we always opening up doors for passive income ratio, because we got to build that wealth. Two, spill the wealth. So I want to talk about how there's like an explosion, especially with like Carmelo Anthony. Who else is that? Cameron Newton, Cam Newton. I could not get his name out. All these podcasts are springing up of these men being able to have these voices that are in sports entertainment and basically overall lifestyle. But I feel like in this industry, sometimes you have to rub shoulders and elbows with people that are going to stretch your own context. I feel like for me, we're building a media empire that's streaming audio, video, blogging, all these different channels. I feel like for me, I am studying other people. I'm watching what they're doing, taking the notes, but I'm also willing to put in my own work to be original. Sometimes I have to see things. Sometimes I have to feel some things out. And I like that I don't have to just go make a decision quick, but I give myself time to evolve and to think differently. Because one thing that I see or saw happening, especially in the last like 2 or 3 years, are male podcasts being able to start a podcast and then within 6 or 7 months, they're blowing up. Partially because the black male voice is very minute in the podcast world, which I feel like is a problem. But at the same time, imagine black women's voices. If black men voice is minute, then a black woman's voice is like up here. And I think that it's super important for my audience, especially, to be able to monetize their podcast and get to that level where you are generating an income from your Spotify, from your Apple Music, from your YouTube, because ultimately that is the goal. And when you keep the fact that you need to build generational wealth as the long-term vision, you would be satisfied in diversifying your lifestyle in order to generate income from who you are. And when you own your own broadcasting channel, your own blog, your own voice of creativity, I think that it gives the world a breath of fresh air as to what it takes and what it feels like to be a creator, but also what it takes to, what it feels like to be a consumer of the art. So when you think about leveling up, right? You cannot tell black women who are right now, 300,000 jobs are out right now. The unemployment rate for black people has risen almost 4.5% in the last 3 years. And you cannot sit back and tell black women like, oh, it's just going to be okay. No, we need opportunities and outlets that are going to allow us to have a lifestyle. We need to have networks of women who are tuning into the network of podcasts so that the funds are generated and it's spread out accordingly, because there's no shortage of the income. I think it's a shortage of ownership and leadership and those who are willing to create. And so your creativity, your mindset, your outlook, it matters. It's important. And then once you start to understand that you have a dynamic value and purpose to your community, to your space, to your neighborhood, to your presence, to your job, all those small spaces that you take up before you even get into the world or want anything from Hollywood, or you want this from a TV show, or you want, this kind of car, or whatever it is that you may desire, you have to make sure that you're willing to sacrifice who you are to serve so that you reap in return a reflection of what you're willing to sacrifice to get to that next level. And I don't think everything is always a monetary sacrifice. I think sometimes, and then most importantly, God is testing your hearts. Are you willing to serve? Are you willing to come up with a plan? What's your creativity like? How do you depend on me? Are you being faithful? Are some of the things that really affect the outcome of what you believe you can have or what you believe is yours. And I'm really preaching this episode to own your own. Own your own channels, own your own streaming, own your own audio, video, blogging. Put your name on it, put your LLC behind it, and then go out and start to do the work. Even if it's shopping and telling people how to shop or whatever the case, make it into a full channel. Do what you have to do to make sure that your brand elevates over time and that you're learning from those around you to elevate to the next level. I think it's super important that as a wealth builder myself who's learned all of these new outlets, life insurance and being able to pour into my stock investment portfolio and being able to buy stocks in dividend paying company like REITs. I feel like before I had those goals in mind, I would just have money and didn't have pockets to put it in to grow. When I am doing the podcast and I'm, planning to tour and then I'm planning to, launch it to a full beep, then that takes the podcast to a different level and it gives channels and streams for my brand to generate income because I'm willing to be flexible and I'm not just caught up in like, oh, I have to just do a podcast. But can a podcast go on the road? Could the podcast do X, Y, and Z? Could the podcast partner? And I think those are the avenues that I'm super excited to, inspire my audience to reach because that's what's happening on my side. And I think that my audience should definitely be a reflection of Sweet Millionaires. Okay? Yes. Segment 3, millionaire moves. So your content becomes your powerhouse, right? And you are putting the content out, which cranks the powerhouse. And so while you're cranking this powerhouse, the goal is to get the gin to spin without your arm having to do the work. And if you've done the work long enough, you're going to pass it to somebody else to do the work so that you can take a break and you can analyze what else in the powerhouse needs fuel or what needs to be fixed or whatever the case. But in the long-term set, your brand is your powerhouse and the community of members that are involved in your powerhouse would allow you to service your community. What are you willing to sacrifice again? And I think that when you serve your community and they pour into you and you pour into them, and then you're actually, being a true leader in the sense that you're creating a space for naysayers to become bystanders, that changes the game because are you willing to show up for a crowd of people who may not have had direction or may not have had inspiration, but when you came into the game and when you showed up with your brand and with your community and with your content, you pulled in a group of people who you didn't even know were watching you or didn't even know were admiring you. So I just feel like when you use your brand, you podcast it on live streams, audios, and videos and blogs, you're creating a career opportunity, which we started with Stack Your Paper, of how to build a career around blogging and vlogging and content. Overall, the goal is to generate income, but you need to know all of the steps that it takes to build that income and be inspired to do so because in the long term, you building generational wealth is the ultimate goal. So until next time, I want to encourage you to park your car in your narrative and don't let anybody deter you from reaching your goals in that next level. I'm telling you right now, there's always a next level.